She angrily opened her brother's coffin during the funeral. What happened next made everyone scream. During the funeral for her only brother, Estelle angrily opened the coffin. This next event is, to say the least, shocking. Estelle was sad as she sat in the front seat of the old church and watched as men in stiff black suits brought the body inside. It was the funeral for her only brother, and she had told herself she wouldn't cry in church, but the choir's somber hymn didn't make her feel any better. He died from being burned to death by a gas leak while he was cooking. Stefan's best friend Robin stopped Estelle. Robin said that the fire accident had badly burned Stefan, so Robin suggested that Stefan be buried in a closed box so that his family wouldn't have to look at his badly burned, unrecognizable body. It was up to Robin to tell the family what to do, and they chose the closed box funeral. Estelle was heartbroken, and her only brother had died in such a horrible way. What hurt her even more was that she would never see his face again. She was filled with anger and pain, and she thought she was going to blow up. Estelle ran towards the coffin, completely overwhelmed by sadness and losing her way. It didn't bother her that it was against the rules to open it. Some of her cousins who were sitting close by quickly ran after Estelle to hold her back, but it looked like her grief had given her the strength of 10 men. They tried hard to stop Estelle, but she fought back furiously. She was about to jump away from them when she tripped and hit her head on the ground. This is the only child that Sam and Betty Johnson had together. They did everything they could to have another child after Stefan was born, but it didn't work. As is often the case when people give up, fate had the last laugh 5 years later, and Estelle was born the next year. Their family was small and happy. The couple wasn't very rich, but their family had a good life. They made sure their kids had everything they needed as they grew up. Stefan was a real prince with his little sister. When Estelle was told she had autism, his love for her got even stronger. Because Estelle has autism, Stefan actually became her guardian and protector. Estelle saw Stefan as her hero. For her, he was pretty much everything. One day, bad news struck the family. Stefan, who was 18 at the time, had just been accepted to college. Estelle, on the other hand, was in the 6th grade. The brother and sister were very sad when they heard that their father had died. It seemed like the end of the world to Stefan. After Sam's death, Stefan took on the duty of taking care of the family. Betty got sick a lot, which made it hard for her to keep a steady job. Stefan was young, but he was put in charge of the whole family right away. It turned out that the bills kept coming in after Sam's shocking death. Stefan began looking for low-level jobs to make money for his family's needs. He was set on being the man of the house for his mom and his beloved little sister. Stefan was lucky enough to quickly find 2 jobs, one as a bank cleaner and the other at a car wash. He worked both jobs at the same time. They didn't pay much, but they let him feed his family, buy Estelle's medicine, and pay off her big bills. Taking on so much responsibility at such a young age must have been hard for Stefan, but he knew how to turn bad situations into good ones. It seemed like years went by so quickly. Stefan was doing really well at college. In the civil engineering class, he was one of the best students. Everyone thought Stefan would have a great life after he graduated. Life had other, more unpleasant plans for him though. Betty got very sick during Stefan's last year of college, and he had to rush her to hospital. The doctors told Betty she had end-stage kidney failure after a number of tests. Betty would need expensive dialysis every week, and if she were to live, probably a kidney transplant as well. As Stefan left the doctor's office, he told him straight out, for Stefan, it felt like the end of the world. The money he made from his low-level jobs wasn't enough to cover their basic needs, let alone pay for his mom's very expensive dialysis. All of it was too much for his young shoulders to handle. He wasn't able to handle everything by himself. Stefan needed help badly, and he needed it right away. Still, there was one more question. Where would the help come from? When Estelle heard about Betty's situation, she was just as sad. She wished so badly that there was something she could do to make things easier for Stefan. Stefan kept a smile on his face the whole time because he loved his little sister so much. He never seemed weak. Estelle knew that Stefan was having money problems, even though no one told her. She couldn't do anything to help though. Estelle always found a way to cheer Stefan on, and she always admired everything her beloved brother did. After a week, Stefan went to see Robin, his best friend and someone who had helped him a lot with money so far. Stefan was very angry with Robin about his money problems. Robin felt sorry for his friend and tried to help him by telling him about a quick way to make money that gave Stefan the creeps. Robin told Stefan straight out that he knew a Mexican drug lord who was desperate to find a good-looking young man to help him sneak drugs across the border. Robin said that he had worked for this drug lord called Carlos Ambrado before, and he had only recently stopped getting along with him. Stefan asked Robin to put him in touch with Armando through a group friend. Robin said he could do that. He did need to make quick cash to save his mom's life, but he didn't want to do something illegal and very dangerous like moving drugs. So, he quickly told Robin about his worries. Robin, on the other hand, persuaded Stefan that Armando's once successful drug smuggling job would make him rich for life. He seemed to think about Robin's words for a very long time. He planned to run the drug business once, making enough money to save his mother's life. After that, he was going to quit for good. Robin called the person right away who would finally put Stefan in touch with Armando. 2 days later, Stefan was standing at an empty subway stop in front of Armando, who looked scary. He looked over at Stefan with a big Cuban cigar in his mouth. Even after the short test, Stefan was able to keep his cool. Armando gave Stefan the job, which made him very happy. Stan and 2 other gang members thought Armando's job for them was too good to be true. They were going to Mexico while pretending to be students on a trip. Following 3 days in Mexico, they would sneak back into the US with backpacks full of cocaine worth a huge $10 million on the black market. 15% was their cut. Stefan was scared and excited at the same time. While they were getting ready for the trip, he was already thinking about what he could do with the $500,000. He had never thought he'd have that much money. Of course, his first goal was to save his mom's life. Once that was done, he planned to buy his mom and sister a house. His only goal was to give them the good life they deserved. After a week, everything was ready for the operation. Armando and his 3 friends had gone over the whole plan one last time. Finally, when the day came, Stefan and the 2 other gang members left for Mexico. The gang jumped in trouble because someone inside Armando's group told a rival drug cartel about the plan. The rival gang then caught Stefan and the other gang members off guard as they were traveling to the US. They held them at gunpoint while the cocaine packs were stolen right in front of their eyes. The other gang then disappeared. After that, Stefan saw his whole world fall apart right in front of his eyes. He was not sure how they would tell Armando the news. Stefan knew they were going to die, but he thought it would be best if they told Armando as soon as possible. They tried to explain what happened, but Armando wouldn't even listen to their excuses. He was very angry, and his drugs, worth $10 million, just disappeared. Armando knew right away that something was wrong. He thought to himself, "These little boys are trying to trick me." Armando gave the 3 boys 2 weeks to either find the drugs or come up with the money to buy them. If they failed, they would all die. Stefan was scared to death. He didn't know what to do. Armando's anger would not let him go. No matter where he went, he felt like eyes were on him. Robin helped Stefan hide and also call his sister. "I'm sorry, my little girl. I'm in a big mess." Stefan could only tell his sister, "Take care of Mom and make her proud." Estelle was very worried and was about to ask her brother more questions. She called back many times, but it didn't work. Then, after only 5 days, Estelle got a call from the number she didn't know. The sound of the caller was eerie, and he quickly identified himself as Robin, Stefan's best friend. Without much fuss, he then told Estelle the worst news she had ever heard in her whole life. Robin said, "Stefan is dead. He had something to do with an explosion while cooking. We rushed him to the hospital right away." But Estelle dropped the phone right away before Robin was finished, and her whole body started to shake with fear and pain. It was hard for her to believe that her superhero brother was dead. She thought the news was unbelievable, that it made her head start to shake and she felt like passing out. It was the same way Estelle felt when she tripped over her brother's body at the funeral. As Estelle tried to get back on her feet after the hard fall, she was still very angry. She still couldn't get to the coffin because 3 of her cousins had pinned her to the floor. But with a very scary scream and power she never knew she had, Estelle ripped away from her captors and ran straight to the coffin. No matter how badly his face was burned, she didn't care. Not much was important to Estelle at that time. She just wanted to see her brother. Estelle had already thrown open the box before the people at the funeral knew what was going on. Finally, the sight she saw made her feel like she was going to die. Stefan's body, or any part of it, was not in the box. Instead, the body of a male mannequin had been made up as him. She fell back in shock and started crying. The sad songs stopped right away, and everyone at the funeral turned their attention to Estelle. The priest walked down from the altar to the coffin and looked at the body right away. When he saw what was inside the box, he crossed himself right away in shock. Soon, everyone at the funeral was screaming in shock as they gathered around the coffin. Everything was a mess inside the church. After she got over her shock, Estelle felt better, knowing that Stefan might still be alive. "But what did he get himself into?" asked Estelle. She knew right away that she had to do something to save her beloved brother from whatever he might have been up to. So Estelle called Mr. Godfrey right away. He is their neighbor and a family friend. Police Officer Godfrey was at the top of his field. Soon after Estelle told him what was going on, Godfrey acted right away. Godfrey went to the church to look for Robin with the help of 2 other police officers. Robin had clearly lied when he said Stefan had died and did everything to make sure Stefan was buried, even persuading Stefan's family to choose a closed box funeral. Godfrey knew right away that Robin was telling lies. But Robin wasn't there when Godfrey and his team got to the church. Estelle had a sad feeling that Stefan was dead and that Robin had something to do with it. Brett thought Stefan was dead too. For the next few days, Estelle would cry herself to sleep. 3 days later though, the police got a tip that Stefan had been killed. Someone called and said Armando killed Stefan. The caller chose to stay anonymous for safety reasons. The police had been keeping an eye on an unrenowned drug lord for a long time. In fact, the caller told the police something very useful. Armando usually met up with his gang at an empty train station on Sunday nights. Authorities got ready to act as soon as they got the tip. The plan was to get to the subway stop a few hours early, surrounding Armando and his friends so they could be caught off guard. As planned, the police SWAT team, led by Godfrey, broke into the train that next Sunday night. They didn't want to give up though, so Armando and his loyal group did. So, Armando's gang and the police got into a fierce gunfight. He was killed right there when he was shot in the head during the gunfight. After a few days, No one was sure what happened to Stefan, but everyone kept thinking the same thing. Stefan had been dead for a long time. Then his family got the biggest surprise of their lives. Estelle had just finished a light dinner one late evening, not long after Armando's death, when she heard a soft knock on the door. You can only imagine how shocked and happy Estelle was when she opened the door and saw her beloved Stefan standing there. Stefan picked her up right away, hugged her tightly, and squeezed her nose. Estelle was crying so hard she couldn't hold it in. She thought she had lost Stefan, but there he was, still alive. Stefan was ready to answer all Estelle's questions because he knew she had a lot of them. He had to tell her the truth. Stefan told Estelle the whole story after he sat down on the couch. Then she added the cap. He had faked his own death with Robin's help to get away from Armando. When Stefan was done telling the story, Estelle was still crying. She was filled with so many feelings. She wasn't sure whether to yell at him for making her so scared or give him a big hug for getting through so much. She got mad at Stefan, but she couldn't hold it in for long. He had done everything for their family, after all. She scolded him for joining the gang in the first place and not telling her, but she still hugged him tight, which made Stefan feel better. "I am truly sorry, Estelle. I didn't mean to make you go through all this pain." Stefan sobbed as he held her close. She wasn't mad at him. She was just thankful. She thought her brother was dead, but he was finally back with her. That was the most important thing. Stefan and Robin went to the police station the next morning. At that point, he told the police that he had borrowed money from Armando to fix his car a few times and couldn't pay him back. Armando had also tried to get him to sell drugs for him in return for the money he owed him. Stefan says that he strongly turned down Armando's attempts. Then Armando made threats to kill him, which is why he had to lie about dying to get away from him. Stefan's story was helped by Robin, who also said that he helped his friend fake his own death. The police believed the two and didn't charge either of them. Even Stefan was seen as a hero by the police, since it was his work that helped bring down the dreaded Armando. Following that week, Stefan chose to ask help on social media. He wrote in a very long moving post, "Autistic daughter needs help for her mother's kidney transplant." Stefan also made a GoFundMe page and added a link to the post. The post went viral in a few days, and donations kept coming in. They raised up to $200,000 through the account in just 2 weeks. With the money, Betty was finally able to have a kidney donation. After 2 weeks, she was released from the hospital, and the once happy family got back together. And what a moving and beautiful meeting it was. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comment section.